everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Zee Garcia.
And I'm Camilla.
And today we're taking a look at Azul Duel, which both rhymes and
is true. Wait.
It makes you feel like you stuttered. Azul Duel. Azul Duel.
Azul Duel.
A duel.
A duel, yeah.
So every game is having a dual version made out of it this time. I was a little surprised this one existed because Azul is a very well-regarded two-player game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It is.
So like the very first dual game, Seven Wonders, didn't play two players. There was a very bad two-player variant, but then they made Seven Wonders Duel, and it was a very different game.
Mm-hmm.
This is taking a game that Azul plays very well at two, and they're making it only two-player here. And how much does it change? Well, Zee's about to show you.
Yeah.
The game's going to be played over 5 rounds with the players taking turns back and forth, taking tiles, placing those tiles over here, moving them over when these lines are complete, trying to score the most victory points. Now here we're going to be taking a look at the central board, bonus tiles for the end of the game, which are double-sided and you can pick whichever side you want. In fact, there's one more I'm not even showing you. These boards over here that have a sun and a moon side and one player's board. So there would be another one on that side of the table for my opponent. There's also these special tiles over here and these tokens that I've already seeded, and they go right here at the beginning of each of those 5 rounds. So here's how the rounds are going to go. Going back and forth, taking turns from the start player, I'm going to do one of 4 things on my turn. And the round is going to be over when I can no longer do one of those things, okay? So first option, and this is very similar to Azul, I am going to take everything of one color from one of the sun tiles out here. So I could, for example, on my turn, take both of these red tiles, place them in any one of these lines that is already red or has no color yet, like this. Now, after I do that, if I take from one of these smaller ones, I'm going to take all the remaining tiles, stack them up in the order of my choice, and put them right here on top of that token. If I do it from this tile, from the large one, and instead I took, say, this tile here, and I placed it somewhere, maybe there, then all the rest have their own spot. They're not stacked up. So they would end up like this, okay? So that's my first option, taking from the sun, and then setting these up like this or like this. Second option, taking from the moon. And if I do that, then I'm going to get everything on top of a stack on one of the moon spaces that matches. So for example, if I did that right now, I would take this tile and I would take this tile because they match and they're on top of a stack, with these being obviously stacks of 1. If I'm the very first person to do that, I also get this, which means I'm first player next time, but I'm going to lose a couple of victory points, and I would stack that over here. When you take tiles in this game, I already took these and this one, they all have to go to the same line like in regular Azul, okay? Third option, when one of these stacks is fully gone, then this is going to be revealed, and I can take one of those special tiles. I'm going to do that twice per round, and it goes right here in this spot. These are lined up to help you track the rounds. Now these are going to show you a half of a tile, sometimes one half with an empty half, sometimes 2 different halves. And I can use 2 that match, 2 matching halves, or any 3 to give me an extra token. So if I have another one that happened to be exactly like this one, and I had this there, then I could use them when scoring comes around to make up the missing tile and score this line. My fourth and final option on my turn, I'm also going to have to do twice per turn, just like taking these special tiles, and that is going over here to the central board, placing one of these, and taking one of these new tiles that goes onto my central board here, which is where I'll deposit these once I score them. I can take any one of the face-up ones, or I could pay victory points to take the top of the stack there, and in fact I can look at that and pay another victory point to draw a different one, and so on until I'm happy. Once I do that, I'm going to take whichever tile I picked and put it anywhere in here I want to, like so. There's 2 special backs on these, and they denote that there's one special face on the other side. The first one, the first special one here is this. That lets you know that when these 3 are filled, then you automatically fill in the 4th, and it gives you this many victory points. The other one has a spot that is wild, and any color could go there. So if I complete these reds, then I could actually put that right there. So players go back and forth, taking the tiles here, taking the half tiles there, filling in their flooring twice. And once we are done going back and forth, then we go into scoring. During scoring, you are going to then be moving things over, seeing if you have full lines, and scoring those lines. So for example, let's say my board looks like that, and let's say I've previously scored that one, then I'm going to go here top to bottom. This is complete, so I'm going to go ahead and move it over somewhere that matches, and I'm going to get 1 victory point because it's next to nothing. And then if there was any lines that were incomplete, then they simply stay there. Once I get to this line, I'm going to move one over there. The rest will clear off. They can be thrown in here. And then I'm going to get, because it is next to something, 1-2 points. If this was complete, because they have been previously completed, like so, and then this tile is here, which would have gotten me 2 points again, then when I move this red one over, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 victory points. And also, if there were more tiles horizontally, I would score 1 point per tile that way as well off of the new one here, which is regular Azul scoring, by the way. With that being done, I also could have spent these, by the way. Then we are going to reset for the next round. At the end of the game, you're going to have these bonuses here. So if you have a diagonal, you're going to get 10 victory points for the full diagonal, 3 victory points for the lines across, 7 for the columns, which again are based off of regular Azul, but it could be different things. It could be you get 1 point for every piece around the outside. You can get this one, which is 4 points for having those in a line, having every color in a single line, and so on, including one here that is for every one of these that's empty and you never filled up, you lose 3 victory points. Very tricky. So there you go. That is the game. After 5 rounds, you figure out who's got the most victory points. And you've got yourself a winner, just like in regular Azul. Also, if you take too many of one thing and they do not fit, say I want to put these out here, but I put them in the one space, this one would break. It goes over here into the broken spot, and then I lose victory points. Over here, you cannot go negative in this game. That's why you begin with 5 victory points. I think that should do it. Let's go ahead and go back up top.
So to recap, what does it change?
I think it changes quite a bit, actually. I think it justifies being a new game.
Yes.
And it's not, to me, it does not feel like, oh, we can shove in a dual mode and just put out another Azul. Could this have worked as a game with more than 2 people? Yeah, maybe, but
I think the tension would be different, though.
Right.
This has a real good 2-player tension where you're banking on when the other person is going to take a certain action and what order they're going to take it in. I think if you had more players, it would dilute that and it would lose the tension that this game is bringing.
there's some sequencing that happens
Right.
that'd be hard to do with 4 people. It'd be like a whole different thing.
It'd just be like
yeah.
luck. Like, I don't know who's going to do what when, man, you know.
That
Yeah.
being said, to me, it feels like another version of Azul that happens to also only be 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
can
going
see
to
that.
argue that it could play as 4, but I'm also not sitting here going, wow, this is a completely new experience. Yes, there's a lot of stuff in it, but it's also a lot of Azul too.
Yeah, it kind of feels to me like it takes a little bit from pretty much, maybe not quite every single Azul before this, but a little bit from the original, quite a bit from the original, a little bit from the second, a little bit from the fourth,
Yes.
and throws them into the stew and sort of comes out with a new thing on the other end.
Kind of like a best hits.
A little bit.
Little bit.
It's kind of what it feels like, a new concoction.
I
yeah.
would agree that it is a best hits wannabe. I mean, I'll just come out and say I'm not a huge fan of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Component-wise, I think it's fine. Mm-hmm. I do find it to be a little fiddly. Like the setup I think setting it up every... So the thing about Azul that I really like is like, I'm going to take these tiles, and then the rest get pushed off, or what have you.
right.
Now it's like, I'll take these. Now I'm going to stack the other ones. Like, oh, my word. I really of all the mechanisms in this game, I dislike the stacking thing the most because I feel like it's a thing that can slow the game down for not a lot of payoff. You're like, okay, you'll take that one, then I'll take that. I'll put them. The other that mechanism I don't like is those half pieces, and it's like, what a waste of time that is to get two of the same, and then you can use it as. And it just felt like more pieces, and Azul's just a better game. I don't know, what is this? Again, I'm extrapolating here. I don't dislike this game, and I would like it more, I think, if Azul didn't exist. But because Azul exists, I could not recommend this.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay.
I like it better than Azul, especially at 2. Azul can be very cutthroat at 2 sometimes. If you can, especially in the original Azul where there is no option but to take tiles, there's no, like, reset your board like there was in Stained Glass. There's nothing else. There's no breaking the cadence. I go, you go. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do. You're going to take something. So I could math it out and be like, you're going to take 5 red. You got nothing open. Deal with that. Mm-hmm. And in this one, I agree that those little half tiles are not mind-blowing, but they are something you need to do at some point. So sometimes I'll take that action so I don't have to do something else.
Yeah.
And the building of the board, I like very much more than the blank side on the original Azul. It kind of gives me an in-between.
Okay, I can see that. I don't like the blank side, but I also don't like the building of the board either. I felt like that almost feels, I'll take this piece and put it on my board. It feels like you're having to look ahead a lot.
I feel like you have to look ahead, but what I like is it feels like it splits your focus, but not in a fractured way. So it gives you a couple different things to focus on. And sometimes you can take a new tile for your middle because you really want it. Sometimes you're taking that turn to take the tile for the middle just to wait out a little bit to hope that other person takes this over here, which sets you up for a great turn.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I really actually like it. Almost feels like a tug of war of timing because there's so many of those little things. So yes, maybe I really want that half piece because if I get that, I know I can complete this because there's no other blues out there. Perfect. That's perfect for me. Other times like, all right, that one's not bad, but of my options, there's probably not going to be a great one. I need to take one. Let me stall a little bit. And so I think it really plays into that timing balance well.
And I like it you don't get to see it until the stack of tiles is gone. Mm-hmm. Until the last one's taken from one of the smaller factory floors or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't get to know what the preset one was.
Right.
And then it might be halves you don't care about. Mm-hmm. But it might be like, you took the last tile. I get to see that first. It has a little bit of that feeling in Seven Wonders where the other player reveals a card for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gotcha.
Yeah,
It's not,
I just felt like that was
take this.
revealing the card in Seven Wonders. I was like,
It's much more dramatic,
It is.
sure, yeah.
It's more subtle. The other thing I liked in those tiles that you take to build out your board that there was the 2 different types.
Yeah.
The one that's going to self-fill and the one that is going to be a wild.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yes, I
another
do like
small little thing, but that makes another little level of decision, which is like, oh, which do I want? Do I want this? Because that's going to complete that end goal or help me go towards those end goals of having a full row or a full diagonal, whichever ones came out. I really like the flexibility of decision that gives.
I'll tell you, when I first read the rule book to this, I was like, oh my gosh, it keeps going. Oh, and there's another thing. And there's another thing. Oh my goodness. But then I got comfortable with it, and I enjoyed it a lot more because of how tactical it is. The stacking the things, that would bother me with more than 2. With 2, I can puzzle it out. You don't want this color. I'm stacking that sucker on top. Or I'm giving you something you're going to take to clear mine.
Right. Or to
Like,
distract
if it's
you
just
from
2
the other
people,
tile.
I can deal with that. If it was more than 2, I'd be like, this mechanism's fiddly.
It is definitely a game, though, if you're playing with 2, you are watching the other person's board as much as your own.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can argue you should always be doing that in games, but you're really doing that.
You
in
really
this.
are.
I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, and then you math out the who's going to go next,
Right.
Right.
Which can be changed with how things go.
But it would really AP clog it up with more than 2.
Now, having said that, I have a couple of things I have an issue with. The board, the player boards are very thin. You just flop them in half and chuck them in there. The tower is... You have to fold flat, and it's too tall unless you take the big flap and kind of fold it inside the top. No. What? Why?
Right.
It does not need to be that big. That's dumb. That could have been smaller.
Right.
It could have been a different
Could have been
shape.
a shape that fits in here.
Yeah.
You could have. Yeah. There's so many other ways it could have been done.
To be fair, you can also just throw that away. Grab a bowl. And throw them in the bowl.
I like that
till
there
you
is
fill,
something
till
there.
you fill the bag again.
I guess I like that there is something there that, but that's like trying to extrapolate any theme at all from this, and that's my
Sure.
biggest complaint is it's still super abstract. But that's
they're
also
round
Azul.
instead of square.
Right. But I mean, that's can be made. That same argument can be made for any Azul. They're very
abstracted. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so for me, at the end of the day, I cannot rate a game in a vacuum. And I would probably have given this a 6 in a vacuum. But I have to give it a 5 because I just can't recommend this when Azul exists. Now, you mentioned it, you don't like that whole haha thing. I love that about Azul.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a big pile of tiles. It doesn't seem to happen in here. I said at the beginning this kind of feels like a variant of Azul, but it also stops feeling like Azul for me. That's the
Okay.
main thing. The whole thing about Azul was take some tiles, do this, put them here, boom, boom, boom. It was fast. This slows the pace down tremendously, and I don't like that. If it was called something else, maybe, but I just found it to be too much work for too little payoff. There's a few things I liked. I liked the filling the space. I really enjoyed that. I don't know why. It just has a nice sense of completion. I don't like the round tiles, by the way. Square tiles are much more satisfying to put in rows and columns than circles are.
Interesting.
I love
It's a weird-
circles.
That's a weird little thing. And also, square tiles don't roll across the table.
Yeah.
Should never make round. Anyway, there's like round discs instead of cubes. Cubes are always better.
I don't know. No, these look so nice because they're just going to be circles lined up where squares, if one's a little off, then it's like distracted. It's like that one tile on
Okay.
the floor that they
I'll
didn't
give
put
that.
right. So circles, that's like they're always straight.
Yeah, but I just don't see this one. Even if I want to play Azul and I was only going to play 2, I would get one of the Azuls. Because
Azul.
I think at least the first 3, I think are all very good 2-player games.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not as keen on the 4th, but the first 3 I thought were very good 2-player games. So a 5 for me.
That's interesting because I'm not a super big fan of Azul. I find it perfectly fine. I probably come down around a 6 on it. I'm a 7.5 on this one, 7.5. It is the one that I would go to if someone wants to play Azul. I'd be like, do you mind playing it too? Let's play this one. And I think it's because I'm not a fan of abstract games. This is still an abstract game, but there's a lot of little things that it feels more like a dance of 2 players, not a how can I hurt you this turn and make sure I get what I want? Okay, done. So it's not just like I take something, you take something, I take something. There's a couple different things to think about, so it becomes a little more puzzly to me, and I like that decision space and the dance that's in this game. That's in this version, I guess. So for me, it's a 7.5.
I'm coming in the highest. I'm giving this one a 9. I really, really like
Wow.
it.
Whoa.
I think it does feel to me like a bit of a greatest hits for Azul. I'm glad that they're like, we're making a 2-player game. They could have made another Azul. I'm sure they will make another Azul. But I'm glad that this one, when I'm assuming where they were designing, they were like, we're going to cap it off at 2, and then I'm going to see what I can do with that, with those parameters. I always like when, a designer, especially a well-versed one like Michael Kiesling, works within that framework. And I think I can feel that in this one. I like what's in there. I like the way it operates, how tactical it is. The back and forth really sings for me in this version of the game. Yeah, there's a few things I didn't like I already mentioned. There's one more that's a little, a little bit of a problem. That is the purple on the tiles. I wish matched the purple of the round discs a little better.
Yeah.
That color, they have the same symbol, so it's okay. But
All the other colors are right on. That
yeah,
one
it's a little
is like
off.
Oh,
But I really liked the game. I thought it played tremendously well.
There you go,
right.
folks. That is Azul Duel. Check it out. I'm Tom.
I'm Zee.
I'm Camilla.
And I'm Azul Duel. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.